What if the weakest person in the palace carried the power to destroy a king? Welcome back, my loves, and to my new viewers, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this magical, heart-aching journey. Now, let's begin. Chapter 1, The Girl He Thought Needed Saving. Moonlight poured like silver water through the open arches of the Blackfang Dominion, brushing softly against the braided banners and ancient stone walls. Celine Vera moved quietly through the palace corridor, her steps light enough to be mistaken for drifting mist. She always made herself small, gentle, easy, not because she wanted to, but because the world had taught her that softness was safer than being seen. Most days, the palace wolves barely noticed her. Too fragile, they whispered. Too quiet. Too breakable. And even though she tried not to mind, she did. Especially when he looked at her the same way. Aldrich Thornvale, the Alpha King himself. Whenever Celine passed by him in the great halls, he would give her a soft nod, a polite smile, a kindness dipped in distance. The kind of look one gave a delicate bird perched on a window, lovely to observe, but too easy to crush. She told herself it didn't matter. She told her heart to be still. But her wolf felt otherwise. He sees you as small, Fenric murmured from within her spirit, his voice older than the moonlight, older than her blood. And yet something trembles when he looks away. Fenric, hush, she whispered under her breath, cheeks warming. But the wolf spirit only chuckled, low and knowing. Celine stopped beside the balcony overlooking the silver forest. From here, she could always breathe easier. The forest glowed faintly at night, the leaves dusted with soft luminescence as though kissed by the moon herself. It was the only place in the palace where she didn't feel wrong. But tonight, something felt different. A tug. A pull. Like invisible fingers curling around her ribs. Celine pressed a hand to her chest. What is this feeling? Fenric's voice tightened. Something is waking. Or calling. Before she could ask more, footsteps approached behind her, steady, controlled, familiar. Celine turned. Aldrich stood in the archway, framed by the pale glow. His braided dark hair brushed broad shoulders, the leather straps on his tunic hugged his chest, and the calm storm in his eyes. Wolves only dreamed of having such control. Except, something flickered in his gaze when he saw her. Something unguarded. Something he quickly buried. You shouldn't wander alone at night, he said softly, as if afraid his voice might startle her. The palace is safe, but the woods can be unpredictable. I'm not going into the woods, she murmured. His lips curved, barely. Even better. He stepped closer, but not too close. Aldrich always kept a careful distance around her, as though he feared overwhelming her. As though she were a delicate stem that might bend under his shadow. And it stung. Every time. Are you well? He asked. You look unsettled. I'm fine, she lied. Fenric growled in her mind. He senses it. He feels the pull too. But before Celine could answer, a low hum rippled through the stone beneath their feet. Aldrich stiffened. The ritual. His jaw tightened. They'd begun too early. Ritual? Celine blinked. What ritual? He hesitated, just enough for her to notice. Just enough for her heart to tighten. Nothing for you to worry about, Aldrich said gently. It's a ceremony for the royal bloodline. You're safe here. Safe. Fragile. Breakable. She lowered her gaze. I understand, Your Majesty. Something pained flashed in his eyes, gone too fast to catch. But the hum grew stronger, echoing faintly through the corridor like a heartbeat made of magic. Celine inhaled sharply as the strange pull inside her strengthened, tugging her toward the east wing. Toward the ritual Aldrich had dismissed with soft kindness. Fenric's voice darkened. You must not go near it. But Celine's feet were already moving. Her pulse quickened. Her breath trembled. And behind her, Aldrich called her name, soft, worried, unguarded. Celine? She didn't answer. She couldn't. The pull was too strong. Too deep. Too ancient. Something in the palace, something meant for kings, was calling to the girl everyone thought needed saving. And Celine Vera walked straight toward it. Without knowing it would awaken a power feared by every wolf in Lornardbound. Chapter 2, The Spell That Should Have Killed Her. Deciding to run. Her body simply moved, pulled by something older than her name, deeper than her fear. The corridors blurred around her as she hurried toward the east wing, where the hum of living magic shook the stones. Celine! Stop, don't go there. Aldrich's voice echoed behind her. But the pull inside her chest sharpened, almost painful, and she couldn't slow down. Fenric snarled within her spirit, panicked, unlike anything she'd ever felt. Little one, turn back, now. I can't, she whispered, breath trembling. The air itself vibrated as she neared a massive, ancient doorway carved with moon symbols. Light leaked through the cracks, pale, blinding, alive. The hum rose into a roar. A ritual meant only for the royal bloodline. And she was stepping straight into its heart. Just as her fingertips brushed the door. Boom. A shockwave tore through the hall. Moonlight exploded outward like a silent scream, slamming into her chest. Celine gasped as her feet left the ground. The world became a whirl of silver, white, and searing heat. Her body arched backward. Symbols igniting beneath her skin. Glow pouring from her veins like liquid starfire. A normal wolf would have died instantly. A normal girl would have burned to ash. But Celine wasn't normal. And the magic recognized her. The blast wrapped around her like a storm choosing its master. Aldrich burst into the hall just in time to see Celine suspended in the air. Glowing, trembling, drowning in forbidden power. His heart stopped. Celine. His voice cracked, raw, terrified, unrestrained. He didn't think. Didn't calculate. Didn't remember that touching a forbidden spell burst could kill him. He just ran to her. But halfway across the corridor, the bond pull slammed into him like a physical force. His wolf roared, possessive, panicked, desperate. She wasn't just glowing. She was awakening. Aldrich staggered, clutching his chest as a violent wave of connection shot through him, stronger than anything he'd ever felt, almost knocking him to his knees. What is happening to you? He whispered, breath ragged. But Celine couldn't answer. Her back arched. Her eyes snapped open. And they weren't their usual soft silver. They were eclipsed dark. Moon swallowed by shadow. Light rimmed with night. Aldrich froze. What? Celine. Fenric's voice thundered in her spirit. Eclipseborn, awakened. Celine's scream wasn't loud. It was silent. But it cracked the air like glass. The ritual's magic, meant to deepen the royal bloodline, latched onto her instead. Pouring through her veins. Carving ancient marks along her arms, shoulders, collarbones. White-hot light pulsed under her skin. Her hair lifted in the rush of power. Her breath came in shattered gasps. Her hands glowed like burning moonstone. She wasn't dying. She was becoming. Aldrich reached her just as the final wave of magic hit. He grabbed her before she could fall, arms locking around her, pulling her against him. The moment his skin touched hers, the bond pull detonated. Heat. Electricity. A connection sharper and stronger than any alpha bond he'd ever felt. He inhaled sharply, almost dropping her. Celine, gods, what are you? Her head rested weakly against his chest, her body still glowing with fading silver fire. She didn't answer. Couldn't. But as her eyes fluttered open, Aldrich saw something in them that turned his blood cold and hot all at once. Fear. Power. Destiny. And something that felt like an ancient recognition. Celine whispered, voice barely audible. I shouldn't be alive. Aldrich's arms tightened around her, instinctive, protective, desperate. Don't say that. I won't let anything happen to you. But Fenric spoke again, and this time, Selene wasn't the only one who heard it. The spell should have killed her. But it didn't. Because she is not what you think. Aldrich stiffened, eyes widening. His wolf growled in confusion, need, and fear. Selene's glow dimmed. But the ancient marks remained. The eclipse shadow in her eyes remained. And in the silence that followed, Aldrich realized the truth. The girl he thought needed saving might be the very thing his kingdom had been warned about. Chapter 3, Eclipse Eyes and the King's Unease. Aldrich didn't trust his legs as he carried Selene through the corridor, the girl glowing faintly in his arms, her skin etched with symbols that pulsed like moonlit veins. The ritual chamber behind them lay in ruins, its doors shattered, its magic drained into the quiet body he held against his chest. But nothing unsettled him more than her eyes. Not silver. Not gold. Not wolf-like at all. But dark moon silver, the exact shade of the lunar eclipse. A color no wolf in Lornardbound had worn for centuries. Selene blinked weakly, eyelashes trembling as she tried to focus. I feel strange. You were hit by a ritual that would have killed any ordinary wolf, Aldrich murmured, his voice deeper than he meant it to be. It shouldn't have touched you. It shouldn't have recognized you. He didn't say the rest, it shouldn't have reacted like it was choosing you. Her fingers tightened around the fabric of his tunic, and the bond pull jolted him again, sharp enough to steal his breath. His wolf snarled softly, possessive, unsettled. Easy, he whispered, to his wolf, not to her. But Selene heard the strain. Are you hurt? No. I'm burning. I'm losing control. I can't stay away from you anymore. Aldrich swallowed the truth and quickened his steps. When he entered the moon hall, Elora Duskveil was already waiting, robes flowing like liquid starlight, her expression calm but her eyes sharp. Aldrich, she greeted, bowing slightly. I felt the rupture. Bring her here. He lowered Selene onto a moonstone bench. Elora knelt before her and reached out, but not to touch. Instead, she hovered her hands inches from Selene's skin. Symbols glowed beneath Selene's collarbone, spirals, crescents, lines interwoven with ancient geometry. Elora inhaled sharply. Chapter 4, Whispers of a Curse and the First Heartbreak. The moment Selene left Aldrich in the moonlit corridor, the hall seemed to hold its breath. Her footsteps were soft, nearly soundless, but Aldrich heard every one of them as if the stones themselves echoed her absence. Fenric, the wolf spirit tethered to his soul, stirred uneasily. She's slipping away from you, Aldrich. He ignored the voice. Or tried to. But the truth burned in his chest. Selene had looked terrified. Not of him, but of something she hadn't said. And that scared him more than any enemy ever could. Selene didn't go to her quarters. Her feet carried her, shaking, cold, to the moonwell chamber where the silver water reflected her trembling reflection. The symbols still faintly glimmered across her skin. Her pulse raced as her fingertips hovered above the glowing pool. Then it happened. A sharp, blinding pulse of moonlight swallowed the chamber. Selene gasped. And the world dissolved. Suddenly she was standing on the edge of the Blackfang Dominion. But it wasn't the thriving kingdom she knew. It was burning. The obsidian towers collapsed into ash. Wolves howled in agony. Moonlight cracked like shattered glass. And standing in the center of the destruction was her. Her hair whipped in storm winds. Her eyes were eclipse silver, cold, ancient, terrifying. And her hands were drenched in power that did not belong to a maid. A voice whispered behind her. The forgotten bloodline awakens, and kingdoms fall. Selene screamed. The vision collapsed. She crashed to her knees, gasping, clutching her chest as if she could hold her heart together with her hands. By the time she made it back to the corridors, she was pale, shaking, barely holding herself together. Her vision replayed again and again, her destroying the place that had shown her kindness, the place where Aldrich had looked at her like she mattered. I can't stay close to him. I might be the curse they warned about. And so she pulled away. She avoided Aldrich in the halls. She skipped morning meal. She feigned exhaustion when Elora knocked. She disappeared whenever Kale tried to talk to her. Everyone noticed. But no one more than the Alpha King. Aldrich cornered Kale in the training yard. Where is she? His voice cracked, barely noticeable, but Kale heard it. Kale raised a brow. Resting, I think. You think? Aldrich's jaw flexed. She's been avoiding me for 2 days. Kale exhaled softly. Maybe she needs space. Aldrich hated that word. Space. Distance. Absence. He felt them like blades. She looks at everyone but me now, Aldrich muttered, almost to himself. Like she's afraid to meet my eyes. Kale watched him carefully. Aldrich, is this about protecting her? Or about losing her? Aldrich didn't answer. Because he couldn't. And because the truth, raw and startling, was beating too loud in his chest. That night, unable to endure it anymore, Aldrich sought her out. He found her sitting alone near the moonlit balcony, hugging her knees, her face hidden. Celine. His voice was soft. Fragile. Too unlike a king. She flinched. Aldrich froze. You're afraid of me, he whispered. Her breath hitched, but not for the reason he thought. Aldrich, it's not. He stepped back, pain flickering across his features like a shadow passing over the sun. You don't need to explain. His tone tightened. If my presence makes you uncomfortable, I'll keep my distance. Her heart cracked. No, Aldrich, please. But he had already turned away. The moonlight caught his profile, strong, proud, wounded, and Celine felt the weight of her vision stabbing through her. If I stay close to him, I will destroy everything he protects. Her throat closed. So she whispered the most heartbreaking thing she had ever said. A little distance, maybe safer. Aldrich stopped moving. Very slowly, his shoulders stiffened. He didn't face her. He didn't speak. But Celine felt the moment something in him quietly broke. And neither of them knew. This was only the beginning of the suffering. The moon shifted. The wolf spirit trembled. And in the shadows behind them, the ancient bloodline began to awaken. Chapter 5, The Prophecy That Names Her Doom. A cold quiet washed over the palace after Celine's words, a little distance, maybe safer. Aldrich didn't sleep that night. Neither did she. 2 hearts in separate chambers. 2 souls aching from a wound caused by fear, not truth. And the moon hung low, silver, watchful, waiting. While Aldrich drowned himself in silent training, Elora moved through the hidden wings of the palace archives with a candle in hand. She had seen the symbols on Celine's skin, the way Aldrich reacted, the way the moonlight bent around her. Something ancient was stirring. And Elora, as the royal seer, had learned long ago that ancient things rarely woke peacefully. She descended the final staircase into the Forbidden Stacks, a library so old even Aldrich rarely entered. Dust rose around her as she pulled out a heavy, iron-bound tome. Its cover bore one symbol. The eclipse mark. Her blood ran cold. She opened it. Page after page showed drawings of silver-eyed figures with moonlit veins and shadows curling from their fingertips. A forgotten bloodline. A power erased from history. And one chilling name scrawled across an entire page. Eclipseborn. Elora read aloud in a whisper. Those born of the eclipse can command what others bow to. Their words bend wolves. Their will bends kings. She swallowed hard. The next line was worse. If awakened without guidance, the eclipseborn destroys what it loves most. Her breath froze. Celine. Fear slithered into her chest, not of Celine, but for her. Because the world would misunderstand her. Because power like this always came with a price. Because Aldrich, stern, wounded, protective, was more entangled with Celine than he realized. Elora closed the book with trembling hands. She needed to warn them before it was too late. Word travels fast in a dominion of wolves. By morning, whispers slithered through the halls. Did you see her eyes that night? I heard she glowed. No maid should carry marks like that. Eclipse-born, cursed blood. Wolves who once smiled at Celine now looked away. Some bowed stiffly, unsure. Others avoided walking too close. Celine felt every glance like a blade. But none cut as deep as the one missing, the one she craved. Aldrich. He kept his promise. He stayed distant. And it was killing both of them. Celine carried water toward the training yard that afternoon when she overheard voices drifting from the Moonwell passage. Elora and Maelys. Aldrich must be told, Elora whispered urgently. The prophecy is clear. If the Eclipse-born's power awakens without balance, it will destroy the Alpha King, Maelys finished quietly. Celine froze. Her heartbeat slammed against her ribs. Destroy Aldrich? Elora continued. Her presence is the omen. The dominion will fall by the hand of the one he grows attached to. Celine's breath shattered. She didn't hear the rest, the part where Elora added. Unless the bond between them heals her power. No. Celine only heard the doom. Only heard. She is the danger. She is the fall. She is the curse. She will destroy Aldrich. Her vision from chapter 4 flashed. The burning dominion. The shattered moon. Aldrich's absence from that future. She stumbled back, water splashing across the stones. Her chest tightened painfully. I have to protect him. I have to keep my distance, even if it hurts. That evening, Aldrich watched her from across the dining hall. Her head lowered. Her shoulders curled in. Her eyes dim. She barely touched her food. A soft strain pulled at his wolf spirit, Fenric. She's hurting, Fenric growled. And you're letting her hurt alone. Aldrich's jaw clenched. He wanted to go to her, lift her chin, make her meet his eyes, make her understand he wasn't afraid of her. But she suddenly stood, her chair scraping softly, and left the hall before he could take a single step toward her. Aldrich's hands curled into fists. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. And he felt it slipping beyond his control. Celine sat at the far end of the moon garden, hugging her knees, staring up at the sky. The moon was full tonight, bright, watchful, accusing. Why me? She whispered. Why this curse? She closed her eyes as tears slipped silently down her cheeks. I will destroy him if I stay. So I must keep my distance. Even if it crushes me. But the wind shifted. And the faint scent of pine and storm told her someone stood behind her. Aldrich. He didn't speak. He didn't touch her. He simply stood there, close enough to feel, but far enough not to frighten her. Celine's tears fell harder. Because the prophecy was already coming true. Her power was not what would destroy Aldrich. Her distance would. And she didn't know how to stop either one. Chapter 6, the night she tried to leave him. The moon was still high when Celine slipped back into her chamber, her chest tight, her eyes swollen from the quiet tears she'd shed in the garden. Aldrich had stood behind her in silence. Close enough to feel. But too far away to save her. That silence broke her. Because it meant he accepted the distance she forced between them. Because maybe, it really was safer that way. But safer for him meant death for her. Her heart couldn't withstand much more. By the 4th hour of the night, Celine sat on the edge of her bed, fingers trembling over the prophecy she copied from Elora's text. If awakened without balance, the Eclipse-born destroys what it loves most. Those words replayed again and again, louder than her heartbeat. I can't stay, she whispered. Her hands moved before her mind caught up. She folded her dresses carefully. Tucked away her small comb and the ribbon Maelys gifted her. Slipped a cloak over her shoulders. Every movement felt like a blade slicing through her chest. Fenric's faint voice brushed her consciousness, not hers, but Aldrich's, a distant echo. Something is wrong. Find her. Celine froze. She pressed a hand over her heart, breathing sharply. No, please, not now. She stuffed the last item into her bag and tied the straps. Tonight. Before sunrise. Before Aldrich sensed the truth in her heartbeat. She would leave the Blackfang Dominion. Before her power, or the prophecy, could kill him. The palace was quiet when Celine slipped into the corridor, her cloak hooded low, shadows swallowing her small figure. Except, the air felt strange. Thicker. Charged. Like the pause before lightning splits the sky. Her steps echoed softly as she neared the east gate, the only exit unguarded at this hour. Almost there. Almost free. Almost far enough to save him. But the moment she stepped into the open courtyard, a gust of wind hit her. A growl rolled through the darkness. And every torch flared in violent light. A voice, deep and breaking, came from behind her. Don't take another step. Her breath shattered. Aldrich stood in the archway, broad shoulders rising and falling unevenly, jaw clenched, silver eyes blazing with something feral. His wolf was awake. And furious. He took one step toward her. Then another. Then another. Until the shadows folded behind him like trembling wings. Celine clutched her bag to her chest. Why, Your Majesty? I was just. Don't lie to me. His voice cracked. Not with anger. With fear. Why are you leaving? The bag slipped from her fingers. She swallowed hard. I have a curse inside me. The prophecy. Aldrich's snarl tore through the courtyard. I don't care about ancient words on a dying page. You should, she whispered. Because those words say I will destroy you. The pain in Aldrich's eyes nearly brought her to her knees. Celine. Her name left him like a plea. You think leaving me will save me? She looked away, tears burning. I'm poison to you. No. He stepped closer. No, you are the only thing keeping me sane. She shook her head, voice breaking. If I stay, the prophecy will come true. If you leave, he whispered hoarsely, I will break. Her breath hitched. Aldrich was not a man who begged. Not a king who bowed. Not a wolf who surrendered. But tonight. He looked at her like she was the only thing keeping him breathing. When she didn't answer, the bond snapped between them, raw, electric, agonizing. Aldrich staggered a step, gripping the side of the stone wall. Celine. His breath came ragged. Don't do this. My wolf, Fenric, he's clawing at me. He thinks you're in danger. He thinks she's leaving him. Celine pressed a trembling hand over her mouth. I'm trying to protect you. His voice dropped to something softer, deeper, breaking. And I'm trying to protect you. Even if it kills me. He lifted his gaze to hers. Do you understand what it feels like to sense your mate slipping away? Her heart stopped. Mate, she whispered. Aldrich froze. His eyes widened slightly, as if the truth had slipped out before he meant it. Silence fell. A fragile, dangerous silence. Then. He tore his gaze away. You are not ready to hear that. Celine felt something inside her crumble. Because she was. She always had been. She stepped backward, tears falling freely. Aldrich. I can't stay. His throat bobbed. He looked like a man being ripped apart from the inside. Then at least tell me why, he whispered. Because if I stay. Her voice cracked. I will love you. And loving you will kill you. The words hit him harder than any blade. His breath shattered. Her knees buckled. And the bond between them pulsed, painful, desperate, aching. Aldrich didn't stop her when she ran back to her chamber. But the moment she disappeared from sight, he dropped to one knee in the courtyard. One hand tearing into the gravel. Chest heaving. Wolf howling inside him. Because the woman he couldn't let go just tried to leave him. And it hurt more than any prophecy ever could. Chapter 7, The Truth Hidden in Her Blood. Celine barely remembered how she reached her chamber. Her body collapsed onto the floor, her cloak twisted around her trembling form. The echo of Aldrich's voice, pained, breaking, confessing more than he meant to, kept replaying through her mind. Do you understand what it feels like to sense your mate slipping away? Her heart squeezed until breathing hurt. I can't be his mate, she whispered into the darkness. I'll ruin him. I'll destroy everything. But the bond inside her pulsed, not angrily, not painfully, just sad, like a wolf curled beside a closing door. Then a soft wind brushed her cheek. Celine's eyes snapped open. Fenric, the shimmering wolf spirit bound to her blood, stood in the middle of the room, silver fur rippling like moonlit water. His voice filled her mind, soft and urgent. You are following the wrong fear, little one. Celine shook her head, tears streaking down her face. Fenric, you saw the vision. I ruined the kingdom. Visions are warnings, Fenric interrupted gently. Not promises. Before she could ask what he meant, he turned and walked straight through the chamber wall, his form gliding into the mist outside. He looked back once. Come. The truth waits. Celine wrapped her cloak tightly around herself and followed him into the night. The palace was silent. The moon high and pale. Every step felt guided by threads older than time. Fenric moved with ethereal grace across the gardens, beyond the walls, and into the forest surrounding the dominion. Except, the deeper they went, the more the trees changed. Silver leaves. Glowing bark. Roots braided with runes of soft lunar light. Celine had heard whispers of such a place. The Silverwood. The forest said to appear only for those chosen by the moon. Her breath caught. Fenric, why are we here? The spirit's tail flicked. Because you need truth more than fear. When they reached the heart of the forest, the air shimmered. Moonlight spiraled downward like falling petals. Mist thickened into a luminous veil. And from within it, a figure stepped forward. Nimera. The moon goddess. Her presence felt like warm starlight on cold skin, gentle, ancient, impossibly soft. Celine Vera. Her voice wrapped around Celine like a cradle. Child of the eclipse born. Finally, you walk where your blood remembers. Celine fell to her knees, overwhelmed. I'm cursed, she whispered. My visions show ruin. I saw myself destroying the Dominion, destroying Aldrich. Nimra raised a hand. The forest stilled. Visions, she said softly, show what will come if you choose fear, not destiny. Celine looked up, breath trembling. I don't understand. Nimra stepped closer, her silver gown flowing like liquid moon. You saw yourself alone in the vision, did you not? Celine nodded weakly. Then you already know the truth. Nimra's eyes softened. Destruction comes only if you walk your path without Aldrich. Without balance. Without the bond completed. Celine's heart thudded painfully. So I'm not meant to destroy him? Nimra smiled, sad, knowing, warm. You were never meant to destroy him. She touched Celine's cheek. You were born to balance him. Celine gasped. The goddess continued, her words slow and luminous. The eclipse-born do not break kings. They steady them. Their power rises in chaos and soothes it. Your visions were warnings, guides, meant to show what happens when fear leads you away from your mate. My mate? Celine whispered. Nimra's smile deepened. Aldrich's soul has known you since your first breath. Celine's tears spilled. But he will reject me, she said quietly. I hurt him. I tried to leave. He must hate me now. Nimra shook her head gently. His heart breaks because he loves. His anger burns because he cares. His wolf aches because you are his moon. She placed a hand over Celine's heart. And you are stronger than fear. Celine's breath wavered. My power, what is it truly? Nimra's voice became a soft echo inside the trees. Not destruction. Not chaos. But balance, Celine. You are the one who calms the king who burns too bright. A warmth bloomed in Celine's chest, soft, glowing, steady. For the first time since her awakening. Her power didn't feel terrifying. It felt like her. As Nimra's form began to fade back into moonlight, she whispered one final truth, carried on a soft breeze. Do not fear your love for him. Fear what becomes of the world if you run from it. When the goddess vanished completely, Fenric nudged Celine's hand, urging her to stand. Her legs trembled, but not with fear. With relief. With clarity. With the first fragile spark of hope. She wiped her tears and looked up at the moon. Aldrich. Her voice broke softly. I'm so afraid to face you. But I must. Her bond pulsed faintly, warm, steady, almost encouraging. And for the first time since her awakening, Celine believed she might not be a curse. Maybe. She was the key to saving the king she loved. Chapter 8, The King's Confession in the Mist. The silver forest glowed softly around Celine as the last trace of Nimra's presence faded. The world felt both impossibly quiet and impossibly full, every leaf shimmering like it had heard the truths she'd just learned. Celine pressed a hand over her heart. Balance, not destruction. Bond, not doom. A future shaped by choices, not fear. But then her chest tightened. Aldrich. The memory of his pain in the courtyard, the way his voice fractured when she tried to leave, burned fresh and raw. Shame twisted inside her. She had wounded the one man who had only ever looked at her with restrained gentleness. Fenric lifted his head suddenly. He is close. Celine's breath caught. Here? In the Silverwood? Before Fenric could answer, the forest shifted. The mist thickened, warm, swirling, alive. The air hummed. And the bond inside her chest sparked like a small flame snapping back to life. Footsteps echoed behind her. Slow. Heavy. Deliberate. Her heart stopped. She didn't need to turn to know who it was. Aldrich, she whispered. His voice came from the mist, rough, low, breaking at the edges. Don't run from me this time. A moment later, Aldrich stepped through the glowing fog. Moonlight slid across his broad shoulders and the tension carved into every line of his body. His hair, usually braided and controlled, was slightly undone, like he'd been running his hands through it for hours. His eyes found her instantly. Silver. Intense. Relieved and angry and aching all at once. Celine's breath trembled. You followed me? No, he said, voice harsh with emotion. I chased you. He stopped a few steps away, close enough that she could feel the heat of him, far enough that he was still giving her room to breathe. His chest rose and fell unevenly. When I woke and sensed you were gone again. He swallowed hard. I felt the world split in half. Her lips parted, guilt tightening her throat. Aldrich, I didn't want to hurt you. You did, he said softly. You hurt me more than any wound ever has. Celine's knees weakened. Not because of his words. But because there was no anger behind them. Only truth. Only vulnerability. Only a man finally letting himself feel. Celine lowered her gaze. You always kept your distance from me. I thought it was because you saw me as fragile. Weak. A muscle in his jaw ticked. Is that truly what you believed? He asked quietly. She nodded once. The silence that followed was thick, charged, almost trembling. Then Aldrich took a step closer. And another. Until he was only a breath away. He lifted a hand, then slowly dropped it at his side, as if touching her right now might break him. I stayed away, he said in a low whisper, because every time I stepped near you, my wolf lost control. Celine's head snapped up. Aldrich's eyes were burning silver, jaw tight with restraint. You say I treated you gently, he continued, but Celine. I was gentle because I had to be. Because if I let myself want what I wanted. He exhaled shakily. I would have pulled you into my arms the first night we met. A warm tremor ran through her. Aldrich. He stepped so close the mist curled around the edges of his tunic, blending with hers. You were never weak, he whispered fiercely. You were temptation. Fire. The one thing I could not allow myself to reach for. Celine felt her pulse stutter. I thought I made you uncomfortable, she whispered. You make me. He broke off, breath shaking. You make me forget that I am a king and remember that I am a man. Her heart nearly burst. A soft shimmer ignited between them, tiny sparks of pale silver light, drifting like fireflies. Aldrich froze. Celine gasped. The bond. The bond was glowing. For the first time. It wasn't chaotic. It wasn't painful. It wasn't overwhelming. It was warm. Gentle. Steady. Aldrich stared at the glowing air between them, voice barely audible. Celine. The bond is responding to calm. To truth. She swallowed hard. It's beautiful. It's you, he said softly. You steady everything. Her cheeks warmed under his gaze. Aldrich lifted a hesitant hand, slow, giving her every chance to pull away, and brushed his fingers along her cheek. Celine inhaled sharply, her skin lighting beneath his touch, a soft glow blooming like a sunrise. His voice was a whisper against the mist. This is why I kept my distance. Because touching you feels like the world finally fits into place. And that terrified me more than any prophecy. She leaned into his palm without thinking. Aldrich. I didn't leave because I didn't want you. Her voice cracked softly. I left because I didn't think I deserved you. He closed his eyes briefly, pain flickering through his expression. You deserve everything, he murmured. Especially me. If you want me. Celine's breath hitched. I do, she whispered. I always have. The bond pulsed again, soft, warm, glowing like moonlit water swirling between their chests. Aldrich pressed his forehead gently against hers. Nothing passionate. Nothing rushed. Just two souls breathing the same air for the first time without fear. And the forest glowed brighter around them. As if even the moon approved. Chapter 9, Learning to Hold Power Without Breaking. The glow between Aldrich and Celine faded slowly, retreating into their skins like shy moonlight. Aldrich didn't release her hand immediately, his thumb lingered against her pulse, memorizing a rhythm he'd almost lost. Celine felt that same warmth travel through her, softer now, no longer burning or wild. For the first time, her power didn't feel like an enemy. It felt alive. Listening. But peace, she quickly learned, was not mastery. The next morning, Elora and Kale waited for her in the training courtyard, a quiet space woven with fog and silver-lit runes. Kale crossed his arms with his usual calm seriousness. Elora looked far too excited to be training someone whose magic once set half a wall trembling. Today, Elora said, we teach you how not to explode. Celine swallowed. Good. I'd like that. Kale stepped closer, his voice low and steady. Your power answers to emotion. If you fear it, it will fear itself. If you trust it, you will command it. Trust. The word felt heavier than any spellbook. They began gently, breathwork, grounding, feeling her heartbeat align with the energy beneath her skin. Each time her focus wavered, symbols bloomed faintly across her arms. Elora whispered instructions, never rushing. Kale steadied her when a pulse of trembling silver spiraled out too fast. You're doing well, Kale said quietly. No, Celine whispered when a flicker surged too brightly. I almost lost it. Almost, Aldrich's voice rumbled from behind them, still means you didn't. He stood under the archway, arms folded, shadows and sunlight fighting to decide which loved him more. But his eyes, those storm-dark, guarded eyes, never left her. He remained all day, not interfering, just watching. Protective. Grounding. As if his presence alone anchored the world. By the second hour, the palace wolves began drifting in to observe. Some in curiosity. Some in fear. Celine felt their stares prickling her back, the eclipse-born girl whose power could command kings. Her chest tightened. And her magic reacted. Silver wind spiraled around her, lifting her hair, lighting her arms, the courtyard trembled. Wolves stepped back. A few whispered. She's losing control again. Is this safe? A curse-born girl shouldn't. Celine flinched. That was all it took. Her energy surged outward, sharp, frantic. Aldrich moved before panic finished tightening her breath. His hands caught her shoulders, warm and sure, his voice steady against her spiraling fear. Celine. Look at me. Her magic stuttered, paused, as though his voice had wrapped around it. You are not danger, he murmured. You are not curse. You're overwhelmed. That's all. His forehead touched hers, barely, softly. Her breath steadied. The silver wind collapsed gently into glittering mist. And for the first time, the watching wolves didn't step away. They bowed their heads. Not in fear. In acknowledgement. In awe. By noon, Celine could raise her energy without shaking the ground. By late afternoon, she could shape it, thin, precise lines of silver tracing in the air like delicate ribbons. Elora clapped. Cale nodded in approval. And Aldrich. Aldrich watched her as though she'd been carved from moonlight and destiny. You're changing them, Elora whispered once the wolves dispersed. They're beginning to see you as something more than a prophecy. Celine exhaled shakily. I'm beginning to see myself differently too. The day ended where the training began, in soft fog, golden dusk, and the quiet hum of her magic resting instead of raging. Aldrich approached her as everyone packed up. Celine. She turned. You held your power today, he said, voice low. Not by force. By kindness. Her cheeks warmed. I'm trying. You're more than trying. His gaze softened. You're becoming. Celine's heart fluttered like the first gentle rise of a new moon. For the first time since her awakening. She wasn't afraid of who she might be. And Aldrich, standing a breath away, seemed no longer afraid of what she meant to him. Their healing had begun. Their bond, once chaotic, now glowed beneath their skin, steady, warm, waiting for the moment they would no longer deny what it called them to be. Chapter 9, the night the prophecy tried to come true. The glow settled over the black fog faded slowly, like a velvet omen, retreating into their skins like shining moonlight, too heavy. Aldrich didn't release her hand immediately, a prickle at the base of her spine, a cold shift memorizing a rhythm as though the shadows were listening. Celine felt that same warmth travel through her, training room still glowing faintly under the moonlight. Wild. Aldrich for the first time, her power didn't feel like an enemy. His presence warmed her, steadied her. Listening, she had just begun to trust herself. She quickly began to believe she could be more than the prophecy that haunted her dreams. The next morning, Elora and Cale waited for her in the training courtyard. A quiet space woven with fog and silver-lit echoed across the palace grounds. Cale crossed his arms with his usual calm seriousness. That's not one of mine. Elora looked far too excited to be training someone whose magic once set half a wall trembling. Darkness swallowed the palace. Said, "We teach you how not to." And then he stepped out. A hooded figure, draped in tattered robes woven with eclipse symbols long forbidden. Cale stepped closer, felt ancient, his voice older than the dominion, older than the laws of power answers to emotion. When he spoke, if you fear his voice rasped like a stone dragged across bone. If you trust it, you will command it. The word slithered into the night, aimed directly at Celine. The word felt heavier than any spellbook. Aldrich moved instantly,
began gently,
placing himself between her and the intruder,
feeling her heartbeat align
his
with the
wolf
energy
surged
beneath
so
her
close
skin.
to the surface his eyes flashed
Each time
near
her
black.
focus wavered, symbols
Identify
bloomed faintly
yourself,
across her
Aldrich
arms.
growled.
Elora
But the
whispered
stranger merely
instructions,
raised his
never
hand,
rushing.
and ancient runes lit the
Kale
ground
steadied
beneath
her
their
when a pulse
feet,
of trembling
forming a
silver
circle of
spiraled
burning
out
silver.
too fast. Celine
"You're
felt
doing
her
well,"
magic
Kale
jolt
said
violently,
quietly,
as though dragged upward
"No,"
by invisible
Celine
claws.
whispered when a flicker surged
She
too
stumbled.
brightly.
I almost lost
something's
it.
wrong.
Almost,
The intruder's
Aldrich's
grin
voice
widened.
rumbled from behind them.
The
Still
prophecy
means
must be
didn't.
fulfilled.
He stood under
The
the
king
archway,
must fall,
arms folded,
by the power
shadows
of the
and sunlight
girl.
fighting to decide which
She
loved him
froze.
more.
No.
But his eyes, those
Not
storm-dark,
again.
guarded eyes, never
Not the
left
vision.
her. He
Not the
remained all
flames.
day, not interfering,
But reality
just
blurred.
watching. The courtyard
Protective.
began to burn, just like in her
Grounding.
nightmare. As if his presence
sky
alone
turned
anchored
red.
the world. Aldrich dropped
By the
to
second
one knee,
hour, the
fighting the
palace
weight
wolves
crushing
began
his
drifting
wolf.
in to observe.
The ground trembled,
Some in
cracking
curiosity,
beneath Celine's feet, some in fear. She saw the moment from her
Celine
vision
felt their
unfold,
stares
the
prickling
moment
her
she
back,
stood alone,
the eclipse-born
world burning
girl whose
around
power
her,
could
Aldrich
command
falling.
kings.
No,
Her chest
Celine
tightened,
whispered, terror flooding
and her
her.
magic reacted.
No,
Silver
no.
wind spiraled around her,
Her magic
lifting
roared
her hair,
awake, lighting her
violent
arms,
and uncontrolled,
the courtyard spiraling out of her skin in
Wolf
silver
stepped
fire.
back.
The
A
stranger
few
whispered.
whispered.
She's
"You see?
losing control again. She is the end of kings.
Is this safe?"
Aldrich
A
choked out
curse-born
her
girl
name.
shouldn't.
Celine, stay with me.
Celine
Don't let
flinched.
him decide what you become.
That was all it took.
But her power kept
Her
rising,
energy surged
ripping
outward,
through the air,
sharp, frantic.
And then, Aldrich moved
She
before
heard
Fenric
panic.
finished tightening her breath.
Not with her ears.
His hands caught
With
her
her blood.
shoulders, warm and sure.
Little one.
His voice steady against her
Remember
spiraling
what you
fear.
learned.
Power
Celine.
does not rule you. Look at me. You choose. Her magic stuttered. She gasped,
Paused,
as
and
though
for
his
the first
voice had
time,
wrapped
she
around
did
it.
something she had never done
You are
mid-surge.
not danger, he murmured. She reached inside the storm
You are not
instead of
curse.
running from it.
You're overwhelmed.
Her breath steadied. That's all. Her heartbeat slowed. His forehead touched hers.
Her trembling
barely,
ceased.
softly. She turned toward
Her breath
Aldrich,
steadied.
not toward fear,
The silver
but toward
wind
him,
collapsed
and her
gently
magic
into
responded.
glittering
mist. The fire dimmed.
And for the first time,
the
the
watching
quake
wolves
stopped.
didn't step away. The vision shattered.
They
bowed their heads. Her power didn't explode.
Not in fear.
It bent.
In
acknowledgement. It listened. In awe. It obeyed. By noon, Celine
With a
could raise her
single
energy
exhale,
without
Celine
shaking the
pressed
ground.
her
palms together and
By
gathered
late
her
afternoon,
energy.
she could
Silver,
shape it,
soft,
thin,
precise
no longer
lines of silver
destructive,
tracing
then
in the
released
air
it in
like
a focused
delicate ribbons
pulse.
that knocked the intruder
Elora
backward without
clapped.
harming anything else.
Kale
nodded in approval. He hit the ground with a
And
violent
Aldrich.
crack. Aldrich watched
rose
her as though
shakily
she'd
to
been
his
carved
feet,
from moonlight,
staring at
and
her in
destiny.
stunned
disbelief. You're changing them,
Not
Elora
fear.
whispered once the wolves
Shock.
dispersed. They're beginning to see you as
Celine,
something more
he
than a
breathed.
prophecy. You resisted the prophecy. Celine exhaled shakily. Her chest lifted,
I'm
trembling. beginning to see myself differently
I didn't choose
too.
fear
This time. The day ended
I
where the
chose.
training began. In
His
soft
voice
fog,
finished for
golden
her,
dusk,
rough with
and
emotion.
the quiet hum of her magic
Love.
resting instead of raging.
She
felt the word like heat
Aldrich
beneath her
approached
skin.
her
as everyone packed up. The intruder lunged again,
Celine.
snarling, but Aldrich was
turned.
faster. You held your
His
power
wolf
today,
slammed him
he
into the
said,
ground,
voice
low.
claws to throat. Not by force. Elora and Kale arrived with
By
guards
kindness.
moments later, sealing the
Her cheeks
intruder in
warmed.
binding chains etched with
I'm
moon
trying.
runes. You're
But
more than
everyone's
trying.
eyes
were on Celine. His gaze softened. The girl who had nearly set
You're
the world on
becoming.
fire. Celine's
The
heart
girl who had
fluttered like
just
the
saved
first
their
gentle
king by
rise of a new
mastering
moon.
the
very magic meant to destroy
For the
him.
first
time since her awakening.
Elora
whispered, breathless.
She wasn't
she
afraid
shouldn't
of
be
who
able
she
to
might
do
be.
that. And
Not
Aldrich,
yet.
standing a breath away,
Not at her
seemed
stage.
no longer afraid of what she
Kale
meant
corrected
to him. Softly, she didn't
Their
do
healing
it
had
because she was
begun.
ready. Their bond,
She did it
once
because she
chaotic,
refused the
now
path
glowed
others
beneath
gave
their
her.
skin, steady,
Aldrich
warm,
approached her
waiting for the
slowly,
moment
as though
they
she
would no
might
longer
disappear
deny
with the
what
wrong
it called them
touch.
to be. His hand cupped her cheek, gentle, reverent. You changed the ending, he said. You rewrote what was meant to break us. Celine leaned into his touch, tears warming her lashes. I'm not here to ruin you, she whispered. I'm here to protect you. Aldrich's eyes softened into pure devotion, his voice a vow. And I will spend every breath I have protecting you in return. The prophecy tried to claim the night. But love, quiet, steady, chosen, rewrote it. And the palace wolves, watching from the shadows, understood. The eclipse-born was not omen. She was promise. Chapter 11, The Bond That Was Always Meant to Be. The courtyard was quiet now. The moon hung low, silver and full, bathing the Blackfang Palace in its soft glow. Smoke from the intruder's bindings curled into the night, but the danger had passed. The fires of fear had been extinguished.
Yet, Celine's heart still raced, not from fear, but from the weight of what had just happened. Aldrich approached her slowly, each step measured, deliberate. The chaos of the past nights, the visions, the fleeing, the near destruction, all seemed to melt away as his eyes held hers. No distance. No restraint. Just quiet reverence and love. "Celine," he whispered, voice low and trembling, "look at me." Her chest tightened. She had waited for this moment, feared it, longed for it. She lifted her gaze, finding his storm-dark eyes softened by moonlight. "You didn't just survive tonight," he said, voice breaking softly. "You mastered it. Not for glory, not for anyone, but for me." Celine's lips trembled. "I couldn't have done it without you." He stepped closer, the glow of the moon reflecting in his eyes, warm and steady. "No. You did this because you are the eclipse-born. Strong. Gentle. Fearless when it matters most. And I am yours." The words hit her like the soft pull of gravity, drawing her forward. She reached up, letting her hands brush the sides of his face. He leaned into her touch as if he had waited a lifetime for permission. Their magic responded instantly. A soft silver light began to bloom from Celine's veins, traveling along her skin in delicate, glowing lines. Aldrich's wolf surged inside him, reacting to her energy, but instead of chaos, it flowed gently into harmony. As he extended a hand, their magic met, merging into a single, soft luminous pulse that radiated warmth into the courtyard. Moonlight twisted through the mist, silver and gentle, reflecting the bond they had finally allowed themselves to share. Celine felt her fear dissolve under the glow, replaced by a profound peace she hadn't known in years. Her bond with Aldrich was no longer tense, chaotic, or fearful. It was steady, alive, and wholly mutual. Aldrich cupped her face with both hands, forehead resting lightly against hers. "I will never let you walk away again," he said softly. "Not from me. Not from us. Not from this bond that has always, always been ours." Celine closed her eyes, tears spilling freely, mingling with the soft silver glow of her magic. I trust you," she whispered. "Completely." Aldrich's lips brushed her temple, then her forehead, tenderly, reverently. The light around them grew, weaving through the mist, through the trees, across the palace walls, a visual testament to the love that had survived prophecy, fear, and pain. Fenric appeared at their side, silent, eyes gleaming with approval. The wolf spirit circled once, low to the ground, before settling at Celine's feet. Elora and Kale, standing a short distance away, watched silently. No words were necessary. The courtyard itself seemed to sigh in relief, the air heavy with moonlight, warmth, and healing magic. Celine felt Aldrich's heartbeat against hers, steady, grounding. She placed her hands over his chest, feeling the strength and the tenderness coiled beneath his skin. "You are mine," he whispered, almost a vow. "As much as the moon is ours." "And I am yours." "I am yours," she echoed. And in that moment, the last of their wounds, the misunderstandings, the fear, the prophecy, dissolved into the gentle glow of their magic, leaving only love, trust, and the quiet hum of a bond that had always been meant to be. The palace seemed to breathe with them. The night whispered in silver light. And for the first time in both their lives, Aldrich and Celine could stand together, not just as Alpha and Eclipse-born, but as two souls healed, whole, and intertwined. The bond glowed brighter, softer, stronger. Moonlight, mist, and silver marks danced across the courtyard, a living testament. They had endured. They had chosen love. And the prophecy had been rewritten, not by fear, but by the courage of their hearts. Chapter 12, The King, His Eclipse Queen, and the Lesson of Love. Dawn spilled into the Blackfawn Palace in soft ribbons of gold and silver. The courtyard, once a stage of fear and prophecy, now glimmered with the quiet shimmer of residual moonlight. Mist curled lazily around the silver-leaved trees, catching the morning in a tender embrace. Celine stood at the center, her hair braided loosely, the soft glow of her magic lingering faintly along her skin. She breathed deeply, feeling the pulse of the palace, the heart of the dominion itself, and realized it was no longer foreign or cold. It beat in rhythm with hers. She was no longer fragile. No longer overlooked. The palace wolves, who had once cast wary glances her way, now bowed with subtle reverence, as if acknowledging that the eclipse-born had become their true heart. They sensed not just her power, but her courage, her gentleness, her mastery of both. Aldrich appeared at her side, as he always did now, tender, strong, protective, yet entirely respectful. His hand brushed hers, a quiet affirmation, no words necessary. "You've changed everything," he whispered, eyes soft with awe and devotion. Celine's lips curved in a faint smile. "No, we changed everything. Together." He drew her closer, their foreheads touching lightly. The bond that had been chaotic, painful, and desperate now pulsed with steady warmth. Silver light swirled gently around them, a subtle reminder of their shared power, their shared hearts. "I was wrong," Aldrich confessed softly. "I thought distance would protect us. I thought I could control what I felt. But I couldn't. And I don't want to control you. I want to walk beside you. Always." Celine placed her hand over his heart, feeling the warmth, the strength, the steady rhythm beneath her palm. "And I've learned," she said softly, "that my softness, it was never weakness. It was the key. The thing that makes my power, our bond, whole." Aldrich's eyes glimmered with emotion. "Then I am lucky," he murmured. "Because I've always been in awe of your strength. And now, I understand, it was your heart guiding us all along." The palace seemed to exhale around them, mist curling into silvered shapes that mirrored the gentle rise and fall of their breathing. The sun climbed higher, illuminating the black-fawn dominion with a soft light that made the walls gleam like molten silver. Celine turned her gaze outward, toward the courtyard and the palace beyond. No longer feared, no longer unsure, she was a beacon. The eclipse-born queen, the heart of the dominion, and the woman who had learned that love and trust could rewrite even the most terrifying of prophecies. And Aldrich, standing beside her, no longer the distant alpha or the restrained protector, now embraced the full depth of his devotion. He was hers, mind, heart, soul, and she was his. Their bond, once pulsing with chaos, now hummed in perfect harmony. Celine breathed deeply, the morning mist curling around her like a soft embrace. "Love," she whispered, "becomes strongest when truth and trust replace fear." Aldrich pressed a gentle kiss to her temple, then rested his forehead against hers once more. "Then we are strong," he said simply. Together, they turned toward the rising sun, the palace, and its people awakening around them. The Blackfawn Dominion would never forget the night prophecy tried to claim them, and the dawn when love, trust, and courage triumphed instead. The eclipse-born queen and her alpha king, united, whole, and at peace, stood as living proof that power, gentleness, and love could coexist, heal, and shine brighter than any fear. And the moral lingered in the hearts of all who watched: love becomes strongest when truth and trust replace fear. The soft wind carried their laughter and whispers through the palace, silver light dancing along braided hair and flowing robes. A new chapter of their lives had begun, not one of prophecy or danger, but one of healing, devotion, and enduring love. And in the quiet, eternal glow of Lornardbound, they knew, together, they were unstoppable.